Good morning, everybody. This is Jacqueline with UnPC Reality coming to you Wednesday, January the 6th. I'm going to be talking today exclusively about the one thing on everyone's mind, really, at this point in the Bravo universe, which is all things Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Normally, I kind of go through each of these episodes a little step by step in order, for the most part, of how things happen, but I know from all the other podcasts that I listen to and what I prefer as a listener, generally speaking, is to just kind of go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, especially when we have one, as meaty as the one that we just watched. If you have not watched this week's Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, I highly encourage you to pause this right now and rejoin us when you have, because spoilers abound today. And really, again, about the more meaty stuff, everything else that pertains to this episode was just essentially filler. Couple things I'll get into before I just generally talk about what, again, is on everybody's mind. We go into the episode with basically on the heels of the argument that Heather and Whitney got into. That was the ending of the last episode and the first thing that we get to see touched on in the new episode before we get into all the bullshit with Monica. So, first scene, you have Monica coming into Whitney's room to inform her of what Heather and even Lisa Barlow had to say about her actions the night prior. Funny, given, again, I'm going into this episode assuming everyone has watched, and this is purely from a recap standpoint. Knowing what we know, obviously, with regards to all of the inner workings of Monica behind the scenes, it's no real great surprise to me, and I have noticed in the past, even though it was kind of a passing thought, so to speak, just something observational that I kind of had a feeling was going to come back. Monica, this whole season, for as long as we've known her, has been one to disseminate this sort of information, just like she did with Whitney. In this first scene, it just seems like she wants to be the level one confidant of everyone in the group with all of these little side conversations. The only real benefit to doing that is to gain trust from these people, which you see is very quickly just absolutely torn to shreds based on the information we get later in the episode. But, she tried to align herself with Monica. She has tried to align herself with Heather. She has gone out of her way now to align herself with Whitney. And I'm sure that these things are timed in such a way where, one, there's like a convenience factor, she sees an in. She wants to split people off, she wants to be the friend in the highest standing and split people off from who they have these existing strong bonds with. Basically to, I think, pretty much position herself very similar to the way Jen Shah positioned herself on the show in seasons prior, where she was kind of the top dog. Whether that was fear-based or based on the fact that she had more dirt on everybody else or whatever you want to surmise, that was the case with her, and I think Monica was trying to go about it in a very same way. It's very similar, right? And this is pointed out by Heather in the scene where, she just kind of spells everything out for all of the ladies at the table at the dinner at the end of this episode. It's very, very Jen Shah-esque. Just her whole behavior, all of her demeanor from start to finish since she's joined the show has been of somebody who has the tendencies of Jen Shah, who has the personality of Jen Shah, who wants to be the top dog just like Jen Shah did. And the only difference between the two is we saw Monica new to this group. When we came in to all of these cast members in Salt Lake, they already had relationships established. Jen had established relationships with the other females on the show. Monica is a new cast member. She's technically, I guess you could kind of look at her as the first addition, because all of the other girls that are series regulars have been on since the beginning. I'm not talking about Mary Cosby. And by the way, where in the hell is she? I would have loved Mary Cosby to be on this trip. Are you kidding me? She probably would have honestly just taken Monica's side in all of this. I think she's come out and said that she has Monica's back. And I think she has also said that that was one of the main reasons that she was on the show this season in particular, to, you know, be the person, I guess, that was on her side, because she knew that no one else was going to be. All of these women have had a lot more information about all of this for a long time. We're just now finding out. So you have to think back to watch what happens live appearances that have happened over the course of this season, you know, and the things that were said, because all of that is very, very relevant now in terms of how they're moving as cast members. We know at BravoCon that Heather Gay, she was the only one mentioned, which is why I originally had the theory that this was all something to do with a lawsuit and owed money from Heather's Beauty Bar. But it's just so much deeper than that. That is a thing, but there's so much additional juice to this that I just did not see coming. And I mean, aside from Scandival, which, golly, I don't know if these Bravo shows are just totally changing and just upping the ante of the dramatics in a formulaic way, like they're setting out to do this because of low ratings or dwindling interest in some franchises. Certainly we know that there was dwindling interest in Vanderpump. I don't think there's really been dwindling interest as of late or even going into this season. I think everyone was very much so looking forward to the ladies of Salt Lake coming back. We all wanted to see kind of how things were going to work without Jen, right? And what the backlash was. And god damn it, find out for once in so many months long of speculation. I mean, I say speculation, we all kind of knew, but for freaking finally find out about Heather Gay's damn black eye. And what do you know? It's what we all thought all along. It was the only thing that made sense in that scenario for that episode, the trip they were on, all that shit. It was the only thing that made sense. Gosh, I got so off track. I just have so much meat and potatoes to this episode. Oh, but yeah, essentially, with the exception of Vanderpump Rules, I don't think I've seen more dramatic TV this year. And I really don't think I've seen much more drama. Maybe like the Brooks faked cancer thing. Probably that, yeah, because that was pretty huge news back in the day. But, I mean, this is one of, if not the most noteworthy, memorable, mesmerizing episodes of any Real Housewives franchise I have seen in my life. And I have seen almost all there is to see. Almost all. So that is really saying something. And it sets a weird precedent almost, because yeah, people just, I mean, things that are going on other Housewives franchises seem quite boring in comparison. They pale in comparison. Even Kyle and Mauricio's marriage stuff that was supposed to be the biggest draw for Real Housewives of Beverly Hills essentially is not as riveting as this was. I've listened to other podcasts today, actually, well, one, cover it. And, you know, they pretty much echoed the exact same thing that I thought. And just talking to a few other Bravo fans and stuff through social media, all of them, same thing. This was like the quickest to go through and most bingey, in the sense like you just wanted more and more and more and fast forward through the commercials as quick as possible episode we have seen in quite some time. Quite some time. And it also, again, back to the setting a precedent thing, now we're gonna kind of have to be weary and somewhat cognizant of the fact that these shows have now been on for so long and these women are so popular and noteworthy, not only just in the United States, but certainly in their local geographical areas. You know, Park City, the second place I ever went skiing was Sundance, which was it is very, very close to Park City, and it's featured a lot on the show. I'm sure most of the people listening know what that is. It's a very nice area, but it's small. It's a small town community. I've been up and down Park City and like kind of the Sundance resort area several times now. And, you know, I'm sure it has a very small town vibe for those women that are local. And this reality Von Teese being a fan, essentially a glorified fucking Dan Humphrey Gossip Girl motherfucker, I mean, truly is something to look out for now. Our cast members, you know, you're going to have to do some deep diggings, not just on their social media that they're advertising to you, but literally, like, what else is out there? Because if they're, you know, people that are behind fan pages and shit like that, like, what would y'all think, you know, I don't know, if they brought Real Housewives of Dallas back and I joined the cast? Like, it's weird. It's weird, weird, weird. I don't want to be a fangirl around all of these other women. Like that, I'm sorry. Like, that's looked down upon. It looks like, you know, of course they benefit from being housewives in lots of different areas. Certainly one of those quote unquote benefits, if you choose to see it that way, is fame, is recognition. And if that is how you choose to go about it, it's going to fail for you every single time. And yeah, reality Von Teese is probably through the goddamn roof, breaking Instagram right now in terms of followers. But that's just because people want the dirt. It's not because people respect her. It's not because people like her. And I'm sorry if you do, and if you want to go to bat for somebody that behaves that way around people that they're supposed to be, you know, getting to know and developing genuine relationships with, then fuck off. Stop listening right now. I am not your people. Like, literally. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of this. I'm going to take a quick break and then let the rants continue. Stay tuned, guys. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about, it does make me think, when I think about people getting attention for doing bad, essentially, right? This reality Von Teese, also known as now Monica, she has apparently, according to her, set up this Real Housewives of Salt Lake City gossip tea, cast member gossip page, whatever the purpose of that was. Essentially, in her words, was to take down Jen Shaw. That's what she said, right? And she said other ladies were collateral damage. Well, I'm sorry, but I've looked at the reality tea stuff. I saw a very long reel on TikTok earlier of somebody who just went through like a laundry list of copy and pasted, you know, stuff, posts and all of that mentioned every single cast member under the goddamn sun, with the exception of, I believe Mary Cosby. I didn't see anything about that controversial individual on any of this, and that's probably because her and Monica get along, because ultimately Monica was the one more responsible for that page than anyone else, and will just never actually admit to that. I don't really care the level of involvement at all. The fact that there was any, period, is a very, very, very bad look, and I'm sorry, but collateral damage for people that you are actively trying to get close to and, formulate friendships with. Really? If they were collateral damage, then you could have been, you could have handled it differently. Any of the posts on that reality page that she runs with this Tanisha person or whoever the hell that is. The person that's on TV that ultimately will bear the burden of accountability for this is Monica. And she knew that going in. And she knew that there was at least some likelihood of her getting caught in this, like she said on the episode. So just like I said earlier today and in podcasts in the past, about the Taylor and Olivia thing on Southern Charm. Why are these women on my TV set doing these horrifically bad character things to other people, freely and apparently without any consequence until they get caught and have to suffer the consequences? And then, just like Taylor at that dinner table in the last episode, want to cry victim. I'm sorry, but if you do shitty things to people, you're going to have to be good with the consequences, because they more than likely will happen to you in some form. I'm very, very strong believer in karma, and I don't think it always shows up exactly how you inflicted pain to the other person. It could show up in any variety of ways, and it's totally her defense of this, although, she pretty much had to have one. Her hands were tied and she was caught, and she knew that. I do at least respect the fact that she didn't continue on with the "no, I'm not involved" thing. She said that her first reaction was to deny it, categorically deny it. But she didn't stick with that for very long. She said, well, no, that's not entirely true, and, good, I guess. Otherwise, we know when people are lying on these shows, right? Just like the Heather Gay black eye thing. We're smart people. We're perceptive people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be prone to watching shows like this that are so very steeped in human behavior, right? So, yeah, we're observant people. We usually, are very quick to pick up on tiny little idiosyncrasies of conversation that just seem a little off, and then you put it together later and it all kind of makes sense. Like Heather Gay's very eloquently given speech to the ladies, and more specifically addressed specifically to Monica, it all felt too familiar. Essentially, Jen Shah and Monica, they might as well be the same person. Because if that's how you're choosing to go about all of this, it's just, and then to go on the show afterwards, it's just bizarre, weird, thirsty behavior. And she's crazy. She's obviously crazy, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with that wackadoo mother of hers. But you can't look at me straight in the face and say that you honestly, in your heart of hearts, believe that the sole purpose for you having that website up was to take Jen Shah down. You could have done that without including any of the other women. And if that was your sole purpose and goal, you wouldn't now turn around and take her place on the motherfucking show. So yeah, I probably would be very livid if I was Jen Shah. Not that she has any rights to think or feel much of anything, really, as far as I'm concerned. or if I give a shit how she feels about it. As a matter of fact, I think it's funny that she's bothered that somebody else is the new troublemaker on the show. And I say bothered because if you looked at my TikTok earlier today, I did post that she posted on her Instagram stories about it. She said Andy Cohen is still butthurt that she didn't do the one-on-one about all of this stuff, and if the producers know whether or not she hit Heather and gave her a black eye, that stuff would be on footage. And why would he want to interview somebody that did that anyway? Like, that was her, I don't know, her big point was that Andy wouldn't want to fuck with her if she punched Heather Gay in the face. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't he want to interview you if you did that? And that wouldn't have been the main topic of conversation anyway, you daft cunt. It would have been the couple $1 million you stole from elderly people fraudulently. That would be the top of the conversation. That would be the top of the hour. The other stuff, the black eye and all that stuff, that's secondary to everything else that you did that makes you a shit human being. And of course Andy Cohen wants that exclusive. He's a journalist. I'm sorry if I'm like screaming into y'all's headset right now, however you're choosing to listen to this podcast, but I was beside myself. I mean, just beside myself at the obliviousness and just utter daftness of that woman still to this day. She's just a hopeless case. Like, let's please not revive Jen Shah. No post-jail interview in several years. Like, let's all just please work our very hardest to forget and then basically be impervious to caring when she's actually around again to be able to explain herself. Because I don't want to watch that Dateline interview or that Andy Cohen interview or whatever she does when she gets released. Because I don't feel like a person like Jen Shah is capable of changing that much. Nor Monica. Nor Monica's mother, for that matter. I mean, all this has trickled down. I feel, and I've even, if you guys have been listening to me for a while cover this, I even put out a podcast in the early days of this season when we were kind of debating back and forth about Monica. For one thing, I totally went off on Meredith on my last podcast. And I don't think her hands are totally clean. But I think Monica's are a lot dirtier. And I think Monica made her look like way more of an asshole than she probably deserved now that I know what we know. So just forget all that. I don't like Meredith. No, I really don't. I think she's annoying to watch at the very least. And I think she's unproductive and doesn't bring in anything to the show. Like at all, really. Never has. But she's more of a genuine friend in this friend group than Monica. So, if I have to pick between the two, and I don't think there is a pick, I don't think there's any world where Monica can come back to this show. And she shouldn't need to. She can get all the attention for all the shit as much as she wants. She'll probably blow up on Instagram whether I like it or not. So I don't think that would be a very smart trajectory for her at all. And why would she? It's like Raquel coming back, or that would have made more sense than this. You know what I mean? This, you're just a glutton for punishment and actually are okay with bad attention. Not all PR is good PR. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. It gets you attention, but it gets you attention for the wrong thing. And again, guys, hate to hate and love to hate. There's a fine line, but they're very different things. Very different things. And so, I don't know where it goes from here. I know that the reunion will be very, very interesting, and I will have a lot to say about that. I don't see it being focused on much else. And it'll be interesting to see what Andy's feedback is about all this, because there's some culpability from casting, right? I mean, these women have known about this reality Von Teese page long before I had any awareness of it. I mean, for years and years and years, they've basically been chastised by this one specific page, and not just Jen Shaw and not just Heather Gay. All of them, they said. All of them. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that Heather Gay didn't, has made a statement saying, like, essentially, her or me, I'm not filming with her. I refuse to film with her. I find it strange that the other ladies haven't stood in solidarity. But it makes a whole lot of sense. All of the podcasts I have listened to that featured any of these women, all the Watch What Happens Live episodes that I've seen of any of these women up to this point, I'm sure they have just been on pins and fucking needles wanting to tell us what a garbage human this woman is. A garbage human. And I defended her. I talked in depth about, that's what I was going to say, blasted Meredith in my last podcast and defended Monica, essentially, maybe not in the last podcast, but in a recent one, that was very centric on her and her shit with her mom, which made me feel really bad and not, completely give her a pass on shitty behavior, but I talked in depth about how I have a very complicated relationship with my mom and how that kind of tugs at my heartstrings in terms of, you wanting something different, but certain people just can't change who they are. And I think, sadly, unfortunately, that's probably true of now Monica and her mother. So, do I think she's the most evil human on, the face of God's green earth? No. Do I maybe see some merit in her, or some, fun, or some draw and appeal to her running, like, basically a slander page on Jen Shaw, who very much deserves and has warranted all this public negative attention? No. But again, you cannot rectify for me the fact that you included the other women and called them collateral damage when all of those posts were not centered around Jen Shaw information. And when you already stated you're working with the feds, I mean, how much closer to this thing do you need to be? You need to work with the FBI and run a slander page? I mean, it's weird. The slander page, the fan page, is just that. If you're talking about all the women on Salt Lake, then you're a fan of Salt Lake City. And that's the purpose of this page, to be shady to those women, to garner some attention for yourself. But again, Park City's a small place, and hairdressers like to talk. And why in the fuck would you run something like that with a hairdresser? I mean, the last person on earth. The last, okay? A hairdresser. Do you know how much those people gossip? Do you know how much they listen and hear and know? Especially from women like that. I mean, it's asinine to me. And then, to go on the fucking show! To agree to be a cast member knowing what you've done. And to not say boo about it and act like you really want to be friends with all of these women. You don't. You don't. You're using them for content and you have an inside track better than everybody else. It's a pretty sweet gig. Until you fucked it up for yourself. You fucked it up for yourself. So now she can return to the gig of being a fan. Being a content creator for anyone that's going to listen. I know that anyone with any integrity isn't going to want to be any part of any of that. You don't see a lot of people, shuffling over to Raquel Leviss now that she has a fucking podcast. I'm cursing a lot in this episode, so I hope, and I don't think many that listen to me will take any great offense to this, but if you do, I am sorry. I'm probably not for you in the future because I do curse, but usually I try to keep a wrangle on it. I'm just so fired up. So fired up. And on that note, really, I think that pretty much covers it. Couple other things I did want to bring up. I, over the weekend, celebrated the increase to a little over 200 followers on TikTok. It seems to be my most rapidly growing platform, period. I would like to say that Spotify, the primary platform for the podcast itself, what I'm talking to you through now, and really the sole purpose of the subsequent social media pages is to filter through the content of the podcast and to bring attention to the podcast. So, if you're listening to this, and this is not my first call to action, but I do see, quite just being perfectly honest, and I think my stats for the most part are pretty public too, a huge disparity between TikTok and Facebook and Spotify. So I probably most regularly post to TikTok, right? For anything and everything, that is where I'm going to frequently post, and it's been working for me, so I'm probably going to keep at it. I really do like the vibe of TikTok and the ease of that, and the fact that you guys seem to be enjoying what I'm doing on there, and that is all freaking fabulous, okay? But I have like 212, I believe it is, followers on TikTok as it is now. That is all organic. That's not like any personal friends or business associates or people in my personal life that I know like Bravo. There's so few. That's honestly one of the reasons I've started to engage with these groups, is because I, quite frankly, in Scandival, didn't have anyone in my real life to actually talk to about these things. So, I'd gotten into a few podcasts. Mainly, Daily Dose of Donna was one that I was listening to really heavy in Scandival and participating a lot in that group. That has since kind of subsided. Just really, there are a lot of reasons, to be honest, but one of them, the pervasive one, is just pure lack of time between me trying to do my own thing and still work a full-time job and still have family responsibilities and so forth. So I don't have a lot of time to sit and listen to other people's podcasts unless I'm sure that the material that exists within is going to just be golden and help me with my own stuff, to be quite honest, or, offer me a different perspective that I haven't thought about that I can talk about. That sort of thing. All that being said, I try to put together something that is thought-provoking, something that serves the people that like these shows, that is a little less cookie cutter, a little less Mary Sunshine. I might not be the peppiest person in the world. I'm kind of like on the maybe more Daria side of the podcast world in this Bravo universe. But I'm real. I'm as real as it freaking gets. And I'm not scared to say how I feel about certain things. And I feel like a lot of content out there these days, quite frankly, again, goes back to the name and the conception of what I'm doing, is a little PC. Scared to hurt feelings, scared to say the wrong thing, scared to not participate in some kind of woke agenda where everyone is snowflakes and Care Bears. I've talked about this. So if you guys like what I'm doing, if you truly do appreciate what I'm doing and want to show some credit, support, whatever you call it, I would really, really, really appreciate, especially if you're a TikTok follower of mine, if you would go on Spotify and follow this podcast on Spotify. It will have to come to a time where I'm either doing this once a week or just on a much more infrequent basis. If I can't at least get to the point where I'm getting my engagement up, I don't care really about the money or fame or notoriety or being a household name, none of that. I just want to bring you guys good content that you can rely on. And that sounds like somebody, like one of your girlfriends that you would talk to. I'm pretty open about my life. I'm available to talk to people through any of my social media platforms. Again, I'm just a normal person. If I don't get back to you right away, I will. It's just because I also do have a full-time job as well that I have to be concerned about. But essentially, the point of all this is there has been and continues to be a huge disparity in my follower numbers on Spotify versus TikTok and even Facebook. I see 200 plus followers on TikTok that are constantly engaging in my stuff, but the same people don't translate over to Facebook. And I understand sometimes, people just simply don't have those platforms or have a platform that they might prefer. That is totally fine. But if you do have these things, please do me a favor and show support. I would love to see my follower numbers increase. I put a call to action on TikTok about this not too long ago and actually watched my numbers drop by one. Just one, but that was not the point. And anyway, it's just really from the bottom of my heart, I have enjoyed seriously doing this, engaging, offering my perspective. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And if you have, please show me some love. Share my content. Sharing is huge. I just need to get to kind of a wider audience so that we can all kind of develop this community and build and be each other's girlfriends and boyfriends and whoever to talk to when these episodes come out. I don't know about you guys, but when there's a real meaty one like today, I am immediately after I watch it looking at two things. Was there a Watch What Happens Live with the castmates on it? If so, I watch that because that's kind of the most central and it's on the network and heavy, usually pretty heavy with content that's following those episodes. And after that, if I don't get my fix from that with all of the kind of rehashing and recapping that I want, then I'll start listening to podcasts because I don't have any personal friends in my life that watch this show. Any of these shows, period. So let's all, become a little family, basically. And that starts with action. Unfortunately, I'm sorry guys, on your part. So if you're listening to this and you haven't followed me, please follow me. Please follow me. If anything, that way, when I do put out new material, it'll show up in your queue on Spotify and you'll know. Also, if you haven't joined me on TikTok, please do it and share any of the content that I have on there to any other pages that you'd like. Anything else that you think might be interested in, my content's free for you guys to use as much as you would like. And anyway, that's my little soapbox speech, so I hope I wasn't too wordy or lectury with you guys. I'm really trying not to be. I will get down on my hands and knees if I have to beg for followers, but I was trying not to go that route. So if you would like to see this continue and you really like what I'm doing, please let me know in some way by hitting that follow at the very least. Okay? So I may be back sooner than you guys think. It kind of depends on how this week plays out. I think there's maybe more to be revealed about Salt Lake even within this week. Certainly cast reactions and things like that so we can bounce further material off of each other. So I will more than likely be putting out another pod probably Friday at the latest. So check back, like I said, on social media. TikTok will be the first place that I announce that, as well as Facebook. And follow me on Spotify if you guys want those regular updates for when new things get released without having to look at social media. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day and take it easy. Love you. Bye.